The notification buzzed against my palm, vibrating weakly through the hospital blanket. I thought it was another update from my doctor, maybe a reminder for my next round of antibiotics. Instead, I saw the words that carved straight through the morphine haze. Your services are no longer required. We've cleared out your workstation. Don't return. No greeting. No explanation. No humanity. My name is Clarina Scott, 38 years old, Senior Operations Architect at Blue Sphere Data Systems, and I was reading my termination notice while lying in a hospital bed with 3 cracked ribs and a stitched lung. I blinked twice, wondering if the pain medication was making me hallucinate, but the message stayed cold. Digital, final. A tremor crawled up my spine, not from the injury, but from sheer humiliation. 7 years of rebuilding that company's crumbling logistics division, gone in one lazy text from CEO Julian Reddick, a man who once told me, "You're the most reliable person in this building." Apparently, not reliable enough. Across the room, another patient let out a low, amused exhale. I hadn't paid him much attention since he was wheeled in an hour earlier. Pale from surgery, but alert. He tilted his head toward me. "Rough news?" he asked, voice steady despite the IV line taped to his hand. I swallowed. "I just got fired. From the hospital." He raised an eyebrow. "That's impressive, in the worst possible way." I turned the phone so he could see the message. His eyes scanned it once, and then they sharpened not with pity, but with recognition. "I know that tone," he murmured. Julian Reddick. My breath caught. "How do you?" He gave a quiet, knowing smile. "I'm Adrian Mercer." The name hit me like a defibrillator. Adrian Mercer, CEO of Helix Dynamics, Blue Sphere's largest competitor. The man Julian dreaded running into at every summit. And here he was in the bed next to mine, staring at the message that ended my career. For the first time since I'd woken up in this ward. My pain shifted into something colder, sharper, purposeful. Julian hadn't simply fired me. He had handed me directly to the one man he feared most. Adrian leaned back against his pillow, eyes still on me. "Clarina," he said softly, "it seems your company has made a very expensive mistake. How are you feeling right now?" Truly, stories like this can hit deeper than we expect. So maybe give yourself a quiet moment to stand by a window and let your eyes rest on something calm. I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight, whether it's a busy city or a quiet corner of home. If this moment is keeping you with me, consider subscribing. It helps us stay connected through every twist and turn of these journeys. And if the story resonates, don't hesitate to share it with someone who might need to hear it. Now, let's step back into the room where Clarina's world is about to change even faster than she imagined. The next morning, sunlight pressed weakly through the thin hospital curtains, painting soft lines across the floor. My body still protested every movement, but my mind was clearer than it had been in days. I stared at the phone on my tray table, at the message that had detonated my life, and felt something inside me settle, like a clicking lock. I wasn't broken. I was done being loyal to the wrong people. Across the room, Adrian Mercer was already awake. Propped against his pillows like the hospital bed was just another conference room chair. A pen rested in his hand, tapping rhythmically against a notebook balanced on his lap. "You didn't sleep," he observed without looking up. "Not much." He finally lifted his gaze. "Your mind's working overtime." "Good. That means you're not defeated." I let out a small, humorless breath. Defeat would have been easier than whatever this is. "It's called transition," he said quietly. "Often the most painful step before growth. Coming from anyone else, it would have sounded like a motivational poster. But from him, a man Julian had feared for a decade, it landed differently. Real, grounded. He nodded toward my phone. "Do you know how many clients you personally carried at Blue Sphere?" The question hit harder than I expected. I swallowed. 7 major contracts, 14 smaller ones, around $50 million a year. His eyebrows lifted a fraction, And those clients, they trusted you, not your CEO. Correct images flashed through my mind, frantic midnight calls, with supply chain directors during system outages, executives telling me I was the only person who understood their processes, teams asking for me by name, even when Julian wanted someone else involved. Yes, I said. They trusted me. He closed his notebook with a soft thud. Then Julian didn't fire you. Clarina. He fired the bridge holding his company upright. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. The truth was brutal in its simplicity. Adrian leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I'll be direct. At Helix Dynamics, we've been trying to break into Blue Sphere's client ecosystem for years, but strategy alone isn't enough. We needed someone who understands the architecture, the people, the pain points, and someone those clients already rely on. My pulse quickened despite myself. Are you saying I'm saying? He interrupted gently. That if you walk through Helix's doors, you won't be starting over. You'll be leading, fully, without a ceiling shoved above your head by insecure leadership. The words settled over me like a blanket of warmth, terrifying, liberating, impossible. Adrian, I whispered. Julian will come after me. He'll claim non-compete violations. He'll spin lies, threaten lawsuits. His expression didn't flicker. Let him. You were fired without cause. Courts don't enforce non-competes in cases like that, and Julian Reddick has always been louder than he is capable. I almost laughed because it was true. Then a nurse drifted in, checking our vitals, breaking the tension, but the decision forming inside me didn't dissolve. When she left, Adrian spoke again, softer this time. Clarina, you're standing at a door that only opens once, and for the first time since the injury. I believed I might actually walk through it. By the time I was discharged 2 days later, the winter air outside felt sharper, cleaner, like it was carving away the last fragments of shock clinging to me. My ribs ached with every breath, but my mind was steadier than it had been in a long time. Adrian had been discharged the morning before, leaving me with a short message scribbled on the back of a folded intake form. Opportunities fade faster than pain. Don't wait too long. A.M. I kept that note tucked inside my jacket pocket as my sister drove me home from the hospital. She tried to talk to me about my injuries, about resting, about taking time to heal, but my thoughts kept drifting back to Blue Sphere, to Julian, to the text that had sliced my loyalty clean in half. When we reached my apartment, a small padded envelope lay wedged between the door and the frame. My name was written in neat block lettering. Inside, a business card embossed with Helix Dynamics' midnight blue crest, and a handwritten line, "Call when you're ready." I stared at the card for a long time, my thumb tracing the raised silver lettering. I thought of Blue Sphere's cold halls, of Julian's clipped tone during meetings, of how invisible I had let myself become. And then I thought of the clients who trusted me, not because of titles or policies, but because I had earned it. That night, unable to sleep, I opened my laptop. My body begged for rest, but my mind refused it. I pulled up every public document, every quarterly report, every press statement from Blue Sphere over the past 3 years. I wasn't searching for ammunition. I was searching for clarity, a map of where things stood, and what had been quietly unraveling beneath Julian's leadership. And what I found didn't surprise me. Revenue fluctuations hidden behind ambiguous footnotes, client churn quietly rising every quarter, new hires placed strategically around Julian's inner circle, rather than where the company needed them. Blue Sphere wasn't stable, it was teetering, and Julian had fired the only person holding together the most volatile section of his ship. The next morning, with a cup of lukewarm tea in hand, I dialed the number from the business card. My heart hammered harder than it had during the accident that sent me to the hospital. The line clicked once. Helix Dynamics. This is Marina speaking. I cleared my throat. This is Clarina Scott. Adrian told me to call. A pause, then a shift in her tone. Warm and purposeful. He's been expecting you. Can you come in on Monday? My ribs throbbed, my head hummed, but something deeper, something fierce rose to the surface. Yes, I said, I'll be there. And as I hung up, I realized this wasn't revenge. This was reclamation. Observant viewers will notice something unusual here. What about you? Monday arrived faster than my body would have liked. Each step from the rideshare to the revolving doors of Helix Dynamics headquarters sent a dull ache through my ribs. But I refused to let it slow me. The building towered above me, sleek steel, clean lines, the kind of architecture that spoke in quiet confidence rather than arrogance. A stark contrast to Blue Sphere's aging glass panels, which always felt one decision away from cracking. Inside, the lobby hummed with purposeful movement. No frantic energy, no disorganized scrambling, just steady, focused professionals moving as if they understood exactly where they fit in the machine. A woman with warm eyes and a dark navy blazer approached me. "You must be Clarina. I'm Marina. Adrian's waiting for you." Her tone carried reassurance, not pity. And for a moment, I felt the tension in my shoulders ease. She guided me through a corridor of glass conference rooms, each filled with teams deep in discussion, not chaotic shouting, actual collaboration. When we reached the corner office, Marina knocked once. "Come in," Adrian's voice called. He stood by the window when I entered, hands in his pockets, city skyline stretching behind him like a backdrop for a magazine cover. He turned, and for a moment, the CEO disappeared, replaced by the man from the hospital bed, the one who'd seen my worst moment without judgment. "Clarina," he greeted gently. "I was hoping you'd say yes." I managed a small smile. "I wasn't sure I'd be able to make it. My ribs have a mind of their own right now." "Sit." He motioned toward the chair across from his desk. "Pain can wait. Opportunity can't." As soon as I sat, he slid a slim folder toward me. Inside were documents, not contracts yet, but outlines. Ideas. Vision. Plans for integrating a new operation strategy into Helix's infrastructure. "This," he said, "is what I believe you can build here." I stared at the pages. They weren't job responsibilities. They were blueprints for authority, autonomy, innovation. Things Blue Sphere had spent years pretending I didn't deserve. "You saw all of this?" From one conversation I asked quietly. "I saw it from 7 years of your reputation," he corrected. "Blue Sphere talked a lot about loyalty. What they never grasped was the reason your client stayed wasn't loyalty to the company. It was loyalty to you." The words hit deeper than I expected. He sat across from me. "I'm not offering you a role out of sympathy. I'm offering it because Helix has a gap only you can fill." My breath steadied. My pulse slowed. "For the first time in a long time," I said. "This feels like something I'm choosing, not something I'm surviving." A slow smile crossed his face. "Then let's choose it together." And in that quiet office overlooking the city, something inside me aligned a sense of returning to myself for the next 2 days. I tried to follow the doctor's instructions and rest, but my mind refused to cooperate. Every time I leaned back against the pillows or shifted to ease the pressure in my ribs, my thoughts returned to the folder Adrian had shown me. Not the numbers or the projections, those were familiar territory, but the quiet promise woven between the pages. "Build something that belongs to you." By Wednesday evening, I was finally able to move around the apartment without gripping furniture for balance. The pain was still there, but so was the momentum. It pulled me forward like gravity. So I did something I hadn't done since the hospital. I opened my email. Hundreds of unread messages, dozens from clients, and then the one name I had been expecting, yet dreading. Julian Reddick. The subject line was ice-cold clarification needed regarding client communications. I clicked it open with a steady hand. "It has come to my attention that several clients have attempted to reach you. You are reminded that you are no longer an employee of Blue Sphere. Please refrain from responding to any messages to avoid violating your separation terms. My jaw tightened. There was no warmth, no apology, not even acknowledgement of the timing of my firing, just the same arrogance he'd always wielded like a blunt weapon. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened another email, one from Eden Core Logistics, a client I had shepherded through 2 system overhauls. We heard about your medical leave. Could you confirm when you'll be available again? We prefer not to transition our account without speaking to you first. My pulse flickered, not with fear, with realization, even now. Blue Sphere was trying to replace me, but clients weren't just accepting it. They were asking for me. I closed the laptop and exhaled slowly. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't forgotten. I wasn't replaceable. The next morning, I met Adrian again, this time in a smaller strategy room lined with digital whiteboards. He greeted me with a quiet nod, sliding a cup of herbal tea toward me. "You look steadier," he said. "I feel steadier." "Good. Because there's something we need to discuss." He tapped a file on the table. "Blue Sphere is making moves, fast ones. They've reassigned your entire portfolio to Julian's nephew. That's already raising questions." Of course it was. His nephew barely understood the software architecture, let alone the client relationships built on years of trust. Adrian folded his hands. "I don't want to push you, but clients reaching out to you directly, that's not something we can ignore." I met his gaze. Clear, uncertain, strengthening. "This isn't about revenge," I said quietly. "No." He agreed. "It's about direction. And the direction you choose now will define everything that follows." And in that moment, with the hum of Helix's operations vibrating faintly through the walls, I knew Blue Sphere was no longer my home. My future was already pulling me somewhere else. This is a passage that only good observers can understand. What do you see by Friday morning? The tension surrounding Blue Sphere had begun to leak into the industry like a quiet rumor. I felt it in every message that came through my phone, not dramatic, not panicked, just tentative, curious. Clients sensed instability long before the public ever did. When I stepped into Helix's office for our scheduled meeting, a subdued urgency pulsed through the halls. Not chaotic, organized, sharp, deliberate. Something was shifting. Adrian was already in the strategy room, jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked like a man preparing for an operation rather than a meeting. "We received 3 inquiries this morning," he said before I even sat down. "Clients asking directly whether you're available for consultation." My breath caught. 3, he nodded. "And all from companies in your old portfolio." I sank slowly into the chair. "Julian won't handle this well." "He already isn't," Adrian replied, sliding a tablet toward me. On the screen was an internal memo from Blue Sphere that someone anonymously had forwarded to Helix. A memo clearly written in panic. Effective immediately. All inquiries regarding the Operations Architecture Division are to be redirected to Interim Director Basil Reddick. Do not disclose employee transitions to clients unless instructed. Communications must remain controlled. Julian's nephew as Interim Director. The disaster was practically writing itself. "There's more," Adrian said quietly. "Helix was contacted by a federal compliance coordinator this morning." My head snapped up. "Compliance, why routine?" he assured. "But they asked whether we anticipated sudden client migrations. They've received whispers that Blue Sphere is restructuring, aggressively." A hollow ache spread in my chest. I had spent 7 years stabilizing that division. One impulsive decision from Julian had undone everything. "This is spiraling." I whispered, "It is." Adrian said, "And you stand at the center whether you like it or not." He leaned back, studying me as if measuring whether I understood the scope of what was unfolding. "Clarina, if these clients move, it won't just be a transition. It will expose everything Julian has been burying, and Blue Sphere's board won't stay blind forever." My pulse thudded painfully against my healing ribs. "I didn't want this." I murmured. "I know," he replied. "But wanting has nothing to do with where responsibility falls. You didn't ask for leverage, but you have it. Silence settled between us, heavy but strangely clarifying. Clients trusted me. Blue Sphere was unraveling, and Helix was offering a path forward, one built on clarity, not fear. Finally, Adrian spoke again. You ready to talk next steps? I exhaled slowly, the decision crystallizing in the air between us. Yes, I said. I think it's time. Don't judge too quickly. Because here comes the biggest twist. That weekend. My apartment felt too quiet for the storm gathering outside its walls. Emails pinged in slow, steady intervals, each one another sign that Blue Sphere's carefully painted surface was cracking. A few came from former colleagues, written in the vague, cautious tone of people who knew their messages could be monitored. But the ones that mattered came from clients. Polite, direct, uneasy. We've been reassigned to someone unfamiliar. Can you confirm your status? Our project timeline has stalled. Are you still consulting independently? We'd like to understand the transition plan with you. If possible. I read each message twice, feeling the weight of them settle on my ribs like a second injury. These weren't opportunistic inquiries. These were warnings, quiet signals that Blue Sphere was wobbling without someone they trusted. Sunday afternoon. I met with Adrian again at a muted cafe near Helix's campus. He arrived without an entourage. Without a laptop, just a folder tucked under one arm, and an expression that told me he already knew most of what I was about to say. You've seen the messages, he murmured as soon as we sat. I nodded. They're not asking about Blue Sphere. They're asking about me. That's why we need to be deliberate, he said, setting the folder between us. Clients reaching out is one thing. Responding too quickly can give Julian ammunition, but ignoring them sends the wrong message too. I exhaled slowly. So what do you suggest? He opened the folder. Inside were drafts, communications plans, legal protocols, transition frameworks, everything structured, careful, precise. We create clarity, he said. No promises, no contracts, just a public update that you're exploring new opportunities and we'll share more soon. After that, we wait. I stared at him. Blue Sphere will panic. That's the point, he replied calmly. Panic exposes truth. A chill slid down my spine. Not from fear, from recognition. Adrian wasn't orchestrating revenge. He was building stability, structure, a path that didn't require destruction to be valid. But Blue Sphere was unraveling fast. That evening, one more email arrived. From Delta Ridge Manufacturing, one of the oldest accounts in my portfolio. We were informed that your health condition prevents further collaboration. Please confirm if this is accurate. We prefer not to transition unless absolutely necessary. My fingers tightened around my phone. Julian wasn't just replacing me, he was rewriting the narrative. Sickness, incapacity, silence, a convenient story to mask the truth. On Monday morning, I stepped into Helix's lobby with a decision already solidified inside me. This isn't about choosing a side anymore. I told Adrian when he approached. No. He agreed. This is about choosing your voice, and for the first time since the hospital, I felt ready to use it. By Tuesday morning, the industry current had shifted from whispers to a low, steady rumble. I could feel it in the elevator right up to Helix's 22nd floor, the subtle hush when doors opened, the quick glances exchanged between employees, the quiet caution that only appeared when something big was beginning to unfold. Adrian met me outside the strategy room, a tablet tucked beneath his arm. Blue Sphere issued a statement an hour ago, he said. Leading me inside? My stomach tightened. About me indirectly. He slid the tablet across the table. The announcement was short, painfully short, due to unforeseen circumstances. Our Operations Architecture Division will undergo temporary restructuring. All inquiries will be redirected to Director Basil Reddick. No mention of my firing. No mention of my absence. Just a sterile attempt to plug the widening cracks in their foundation. They're pretending nothing happened, I murmured. because acknowledging it means acknowledging their mistake. I leaned back, rubbing the tightness in my ribs. Every part of me wanted to believe this would settle on its own, that I could take the high road and let things unfold quietly. But then Adrian opened another document. Clarina, you need to see this. Emails forwarded from someone inside Bluesphere Anonymous. Untraceable. Teams scrambling to respond to client questions. Confusion about who was authorized to approve system changes. Requests redirected to Basil, piling up unanswered. Senior analysts questioning why they weren't informed of my termination. And then one line that made my blood run cold if clients insist on speaking with her. Tell them she is currently incapacitated and unavailable for future projects. My hands trembled not from injury, but from the sheer pettiness of it. They're framing you as too weak to continue, Adrian said softly. They want to close the door before anyone realizes you didn't close it yourself. That's not incompetence, I whispered. That's sabotage. He nodded slowly. Which means you need to take ownership of your narrative, publicly. I pressed my palms against the table, steadying myself even as frustration rose like a wave. I had spent years pulling Bluesphere out of crises Julian created, years stabilizing their broken pipelines, and this lie was their answer. What do you want me to say? I asked. The truth, Adrian replied. Not an attack, not an accusation, just clarity. Clients need to know you're not bedridden or silenced. They need to know you're standing and choosing your next step. I inhaled deeply, the movement tugging at my ribs. For the first time, the choice didn't scare me, because it wasn't about revenge, or even justice. It was about reclaiming the part of my life Julian tried to erase with a single text message. I looked up at Adrian, resolve forming cleanly in my chest. Then let's tell them. By Wednesday morning, my public update was ready. Simple, professional, clear. After completing medical treatment, I'm evaluating new professional opportunities. I remain committed to supporting organizations that value stability, transparency, and long-term partnership. I will share more details soon. No attack, no drama, just truth. Helix's communications director, Marina, reviewed it twice before giving a calm nod. This tone will make Bluesphere nervous, she said, which is exactly what they deserve. Adrian waited beside her, arms crossed, watching my reaction more than the message. You don't have to post it today, he said quietly. Yes, I replied. I do. Minutes later, the message went live on my LinkedIn profile, and the reaction was instant. Notifications exploded across my phone likes, comments, private messages, and then direct emails from clients, from industry partners, from people inside Bluesphere. It was like someone had cracked open a dam. The first email came from Delta Ridge Manufacturing. We're glad to hear you're recovering. We suspected Bluesphere wasn't telling us the full story. Then from Edencore Logistics. We paused all new requests until we could confirm your status. Please let us know where you land will follow. And then a third message, the one that made my breath hitch. I'm sorry. This shouldn't have happened to you. Sent anonymously from a Bluesphere internal address. I stared at that last line for a long time. Someone inside was watching this unfold. Someone who knew Julian's narrative was collapsing by noon. The situation escalated further. Marina hurried into the conference room where Adrian and I were reviewing transition frameworks. There's something you both need to see, she said, voice tight. She set a printed report on the table, a summary of Bluesphere's investor call, leaked less than an hour after it ended. And there it was. In black and white, client retention risk elevated, operational continuity unresolved, leadership stability under review. And beneath those lines, a phrase that struck deeper than all the others, key personnel departure continues to impact multiple accounts. Adrian met my eyes over the report. That key personnel is you. A heavy silence settled between us, vibrating with the weight of everything Bluesphere was trying to hide and failing to control. This isn't a crack, he said quietly. It's the beginning of an internal collapse. My chest tightened. Not in fear, in recognition. Because I finally understood Blue Sphere hadn't simply lost me. They had lost the thread that held their entire operations network together, and Julian was running out of places to hide. I closed the report, my decision settling like steel in my ribs. Adrian, I said steadily, if Blue Sphere is falling apart, we need to be ready for what comes next. He nodded once, the corner of his mouth lifting. Oh, we will be, that evening. As lights flickered across Helix's windows, my phone buzzed with an anonymous message. They're collapsing. You should see this. A second message followed screenshots from Blue Sphere's internal audit channel, unauthorized system changes under Basil's credentials, client churn hidden in doctored reports. Julian's panicked directives scattered across midnight timestamps. This wasn't mismanagement anymore. It was a quiet implosion. I sent everything to Adrian. He called instantly. Blue Sphere's board is meeting right now, he said. Someone leaked the audit results. This is the moment. My chest tightened. They'll blame me. They'll try, he said. Because it's easier than admitting the truth the moment you were gone. Everything they buried started surfacing. Minutes later. More messages arrived from an old colleague. Julian stormed out. Security took his badge. A second message, Basil resigned. Total chaos. I sank back in my chair. Not triumphant, just finally free of the weight I had been carrying since the day Julian fired me in that hospital bed. Adrian stepped into the room a moment later. Calmer now, as if he already understood what this ending meant for both of us. You didn't cause their collapse. Clarina, he said. Julian did. You simply stopped holding the pieces together for him. I looked out at the city bright, steady, impossibly open. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a fight for survival. It felt like possibility. I took a slow breath, ribs aching but spirit steady. Then this, I said quietly, is my clean break. Adrian nodded. And your beginning. One thing I realized after all this, sometimes life just needs a hard fall to show you've been in the wrong place for too long. How did you feel when you heard this story? Were there any details that made you pause and think, I'd love to know where you're listening? From what corner of your life? Tell me in the comments if the story resonated with you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can meet again on our next journeys.